Hello YouTube, this is going to be the second part of our bevel shader solutions for multiple objects. This method is going to include the Zen BBQ add-on that you can see right here. It is available on Blender Market. I believe this is a very nice tool if you want to have finer control over your bevel effect, and it is great for baking, rendering, for just elevating your hard surface models. First of all, let's go back to shading and let's disconnect our bevel node, because if we go ahead and apply a bevel, for example 5 centimeters bevel, this may create some artifacts like double bevels, because this add-on adds ZenBBQ normal node 3 that has another bevel inside of it, and we don't need another bevel. It just messes up our results. So let's go ahead and delete it. In order to achieve our joint dual effect, first of all, we need to understand how this plugin actually works, because it is not just a material that applies at the end of our model and at the end of our modifier stacks. What do I mean by that? It works by assigning a value on vertices on different parts of your mesh or on the whole mesh. And for example, if we go ahead and open, since we assigned the 5 centimeter value, our mesh and our vertices receive a value of 5 centimeters for this bevel effect. If we go ahead and, for example, select this part of the mesh, let's go ahead and actually disable our subdivision modifier, and let's assign these vertices as 10 centimeters or even more. Let's go ahead and put 50 centimeters and click this button here. As you can see, there is a very big difference between this part and this part. Let's go ahead and put another loop here so you can see how this thing works. It is a pretty cool feature if you actually want this kind of control. Why is it good? If you, for example, have small meshes here that you don't want to have like giant bevels, you can simply tell them to not have them and assign a 5 centimeter bevel right here. Let's make sure that this is a joint ones geometry, and let's make it a bit bigger. So as you can see, this plugin tries to control the geometry separately on different assigned values. So if we want to go ahead and, for example, make this smaller, make this surface smaller here, let's go ahead and maybe create like a small inset here and make it 5 centimeters. Now our mesh is going to be synced right here. So this is a great solution if you have these kind of situations. What is the problem though? The problem is when we have booleans, and this is a pretty major drawback, because with my method right here, the booleans do not have our bevels. But on our original mesh we can see these bevels. Why they're not translating here? The problem is because the booleans create new vertices, these vertices do not receive our initial value that we have assigned on our model. They do not receive this yellow and these purple values here. They are just simply a value of 0. And how this plugin actually achieves this effect on our original model is by this boolean bevel radius. So in order to fix that, the developers actually created an additional attribute that is assigned to the object itself, and this object attribute is controlling this bevel. If we go down to custom properties, we can see there is something called ZenBBQ intact bevel radius. This radius is actually updated right here in the live boolean radius. We can see that it is updating. So that's how they achieve that, because it is assigned to the object after every modifier. And this custom property here, it is actually mentioned here in the ZenBBQ node 3. If we go back to our object data, we can see that we have another two attributes right here. We have ZenBBQ and we have ZenBBQ user defined. I'm going to explain what these two attributes do. If we go ahead and open up ZenBBQ normal, we have these three attributes, we have ZenBBQ user defined, which is a geometry attribute. We have a BBQ intact bevel radius, which is an object attribute, and we have a geometry attribute called ZenBBQ. We already covered what this ZenBBQ intact bevel radius does. It is an object attribute that applies bevel after booleans and after every modifier. The ZenBBQ is actually the attribute that stores every single vertex with value of centimeters and millimeters on your edges that you have selected here. So right now we know what this does, but what does this user defined do? This stores the data of our vertices that we have assigned any value to or to our whole object, and it stores a 0 or 1 value. 0 for vertices that are not affected and 1 that is affected by any option from this menu. And whenever we have booleans, that means that these values are also 0. Take a look how this actually blends right here. We have these 3 attributes that are blending into a mix node. And since this BBQ user defined attribute works as a mask because it is a 0 and 1, and it tells, okay, this vertex is white, these booleans are going to be black, and it is going to be a mask for this mix node that is going to mix between ZenBBQ intact bevel radius. This is the object that gives bevels after boolean, and this ZenBBQ that keeps the original values, millimeters and centimeters, that we have applied to each vertex. And it mixes right here, that gives us this result, and at the end it does not work with our method because we don't have this attribute applied to our custom properties here, and we don't actually have control over that. In order to bypass this problem with these booleans that are super sharp here, is going to be if we apply modifier after them, that is going to give our booleans a bevel after them. So I came up with this solution that is going to take the values from this ZenBBQ attribute, and it is going to assign an average value from this attribute to our geometry that is created from the booleans. So I've created a simple add-on that imports a geometry node tree, but before that we have to make some adjustments here on the ZenBBQ normal node tree. We won't need this mix node, and we won't need these 2 attributes from here. We're not going to delete them, we're just going to skip them. And as you can see, we are not having any bevels anymore with our booleans. So what this script is doing, it is going to add a geometry node modifier after all booleans on your object. So if you have an object with booleans, you can select multiple objects with as many booleans as you want. You can select them, right click, Sergo scripts, and add BBQ Bevel Spread. And if you go ahead and take a look, it adds this BBQ Bevel Spread geometry node tree at the end of our modifier stacks. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what is happening with our BBQ Bevel Spread. Voila, it fixes our problem. But what exactly does it do? How does it work, so we understand better how to use it? If we go ahead and take a look, we take the geometry on our model. This is our model. We take this geometry and we plug it into attribute statistics. We take a named attribute. If you remember, we have written here ZenBBQ. Very important. ZenBBQ, it takes the values from the millimeters and centimeters that we have assigned, and we plug that into the attribute statistics node here. From here now we are taking the mean value, which is simply set average value from our beveled vertices here, and we're going to plug that into the B options of a mix node. Now if we go ahead and take a look what is happening down here, we get the ZenBBQ user defined attribute. This is the attribute that it works as a mask, and it tells if we have assigned or not assigned to a geometry a bevel. We want to invert that mask, so we subtract from 1 this attribute value and we plug that into the factor, and this is going to work as a mask between new values joining into B and the old values joining into A, and it is plugged right here into stored name attribute. We are storing that back into the Zen BBQ attribute. Now if we go ahead and take the geometry and plug it into group output, right here we have these values applied after the booleans, and this is the result that we get. If we go ahead and fiddle around right here some more so you can see what is happening. So if we go ahead and select half of our vertices and assign a smaller value right here, it is going to affect our bevels. And if we go ahead and place 50 or maybe 100 centimeters, it is going to affect these values right here. Right here we have smaller bevels, we have big bevels here, and we have the middle ground right here. I think this is a pretty okay solution. At least for me, I'm very happy with that solution. It is pretty straightforward. I'm going to share this add-on script, and I'm open to suggestions and other improvements on this method. So if you like this method and these little tricks that I've shared with you, give this video maybe a thumbs up so more people can see it and more people can improve their workflows and be faster. So that's gonna be all from me. If you want to check out some of my streams that I do on this channel, go ahead and check them out, and see you another time. Bye bye.